All right, you are now live.
Okay, perfect. So I now call this meeting to order. It is now 5:08 p.m. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we're all treaty people. So first thing we're going to do is a video and mic check. So I'll read off everyone's names, and as I say that, you can, I guess, unmute yourself and say hi and turn on your video. So I guess I'm first. I'm Zoya. I'm doing okay. Cyril?
Hi everyone, it's Cyril.
Perfect. Abraham?
Hi, it's Abraham.
Crystal?
Hi, it's Crystal.
Okay. And Simone is not in the meeting yet. Tanya?
Hi, it's Tanya.
Hi. And Hiba? I think I just see her in the meeting now.
Yeah, Heba just joined.
Okay.
Hey everyone. I just came home, so
Sure. Isabella is not in the meeting yet. Damini, not yet. Bianca?
Hello, it's Bianca.
Okay. And Gabriel.
Hi everyone, it's Gabriel.
And then we have Olivia and Elizabeth. Your mics are all good?
yeah,
We
hi
have-
everyone.
Perfect. All right, so next we have the approval of our minutes from September 18th. Are there any changes that the committee wishes to make on the minutes? If not, then I call for a motion that the minutes of September 18th, our Youth Advisory Committee meeting, be approved as presented. This requires a mover and a seconder.
I can
I'll
move.
move.
I'll
I'll
take a
second.
second for that then.
Okay. All right, so Hanya moved and Cyril seconded. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands. Okay, perfect. All those opposed? All right, looks like this motion passes. All right, next we have approval of the order of business and additions and deletions. Was there anything from the clerk's office?
We do not have any additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Okay. And is there something that a member would like to add to the agenda or deferrals?
I can add a deferral. It was regarding items 1.1 and 1.2, the election of the chair and vice chair. I think we just discussed sort of deferring it to the January meeting, just so that
Right.
more members of the committee can be here.
Sounds good. This requires a mover and a seconder. I call for a motion that the order of business be approved as amended. All those, mover and seconder, right?
I'll move.
Okay,
Actually, I would
I'll
like to add
second.
another item. Actually, if we're going to
Sure.
approve the final order of minutes, I would also like to add another item.
Sure.
I would just like to add an item which would be a sort of a discussion regarding the current budget deliberations and just seeing if there's any opportunities for the Youth Advisory Committee to sort of make any recommendations. So I guess the phrasing of it would be we could just say like discussion of municipal budget with regards to youth.
Okay, sounds good. Would that all be in one amendment, Elizabeth?
So the motion would still be to approve the order of business as amended.
Okay, perfect. So
And
I
I'll
call
add
for
that
a
item.
motion that the agenda be approved as amended. This requires a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, perfect. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands. Right. All those opposed? No one opposes. This motion carries. Is there any business arising out of the minutes? Nope. And does a committee member wish to declare conflict of interest? Nope. Okay. And has there been any correspondence received from the clerk's office?
No correspondence has been received from the clerk's office and no petitions have been received from the clerk's office.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda, we have a presentation today for recruiting for the Nova Scotia Youth Nature and Wellbeing Survey. So Maddie and Agostino, whenever you're ready, you can take the virtual floor.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Do you want to share the slides?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to share my screen.
I'm just going to share some slides and then we'll get going here.
Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us here today. We're here on behalf of Dalhousie University with the Outdoor Health Nova Scotia research team. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the Nova Scotia Youth Nature and Wellbeing Survey that is currently live. My name is Agustina. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a graduate student in the Leisure Studies program here at Dal.
And I'm Maddie. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Master's of Science in Kinesiology student at Dal.
Sweet. So for the agenda for today, I'm going to quickly introduce the Outdoor Health Nova Scotia project, and then I'm going to hand it over to Maddie to talk a little bit more about the survey, as well as strategies for recruitment, and then potential opportunities for future collaboration and working together. So the Outdoor Health Nova Scotia Research Project is a 2-year study funded by Research Nova Scotia. The main goals of our project are to better understand the available resources in the province around outdoor services and nature-based services for youth and young people. But then also we really have a really strong emphasis on collaborating with youth and consulting youth and trying to get youth voices on access to nature for well-being within the province of Nova Scotia and what that means. So this project was divided into 3 main phases over the course of, I think we're like a year and a half into it now. So we have about 6 months left since we started. And the first phase of the project was an environmental scan. So what this means is that there were some researchers from our team who did a really extensive search on the internet and through research to find all the different outdoor-based services that are meant to support youth well-being in Nova Scotia. So we're hoping to be able to compile that as a bit of a list and a reference for people down the line. The next phase was a youth photo voice project. So for this project, we worked with 3 youth groups all across Nova Scotia. 2 groups that were based out of HRM and 1 group based out of Eskasoni First Nation in Cape Breton. And we gave youth cameras to document their experiences and share stories about how they engage with nature for their well-being, as well as what barriers they experience and how to make nature more accessible for diverse youth populations in the province. And then the last one is the online survey, which is why we're here talking to you all today, which is the only active phase of the project right now. So the environmental scan has already happened. The youth photo voice project also already happened in the spring of this year. Right now our survey's live, which is why we're here presenting to you a little bit about the survey. These are just a couple photos for you to all see a little bit about what we've been up to the last little while. So the top 2 to the left, I guess, are pictures from our photo voice projects, and the top 2 to the right are also pictures from the photo voice project. So we were working with youth and they were taking photos and talking about their photos and making connections. It was really exciting. So these are just some examples about how we've kind of been engaging with youth already in the project. And then the top right there, you'll see that's Maddie. We had a pilot session for the survey. So we did a youth consultation to try and get some feedback on our survey on how to make it better before we rolled it out. And then that bottom left photo is me very excited holding some zines. So Maddie and I went to a zine workshop, and a month ago now, more or less, we hosted a workshop with everyone every day, a youth zine workshop talking about nature and youth well-being. So it was kind of a way to get involved in the community and also to share a little bit about our research with the local community. So yeah, if anyone has questions down the line, we'll have some time, but that's all that I had from the introduction of the project, and I'm going to hand it over to Maddie to talk a little bit more about the survey now.
Yeah, so today we're here to talk to you all about this survey, our Nova Scotia Youth Nature and Wellbeing Survey, which is currently launched right now. And the purpose of this survey is to explore Nova Scotia youth perspectives to accessing nature for their well-being and for the benefits that it provides. So we're going to be looking at youth's experiences, their perspectives in nature, the specific benefits for them, and then also the barriers and facilitators that they face as a youth in Nova Scotia towards accessing it. So there's a variety of different questions in this survey. Like, for example, we have some open-ended questions that get youth to like talk and like about how they feel, how nature makes them feel physically. We have like multiple choice style questions, that type of thing. Also Likert scale questions where youth are like ranking the personal benefits of nature to them or challenges to accessing nature. So in total, it's around 40 questions, which sounds long, but it takes around 15 to 20 minutes to complete, so nothing too crazy. And then another really cool section of the survey that we have is this photo submission option. So at the end of the survey, we actually have youth upload a photo of nature and experience in nature for them in Nova Scotia, which is really cool as well. So as of yesterday, we recruited 98 youth so far in Nova Scotia between the ages of 13 to 18 for our survey. But as of today, it's actually, the numbers have gone up to over 100. We reached triple
Yay.
digits, which was a big thing for us. But essentially, we've been doing a lot of work trying to recruit youth in Nova Scotia, which is kind of what led us to finding you folks and getting connected with you all, because we really want to just broaden our reach of people that we can reach out to for the survey. Because obviously we all know that the benefits of nature, there's so many: physical, social, emotional, mental, things like that. And like, how can we collect data about Nova Scotia youth in particular from their youth in order to make a difference to them? So some examples of recruitment methods that we've done so far is reaching out to some youth organizations such as yourselves. We have some physical posters in different public spaces in Nova Scotia. We also have a social media page. We've been sending out emails, been to some conferences, events, and are also in contact with some of the Nova Scotia school boards to try to get ethics approval to go into them and recruit through them. But yeah, here's our recruitment poster. So I believe these slides and these graphics should be shared with you all already. But essentially, we'd really appreciate if you folks could take the time, if you fit that criteria of being between 13 to 18, which I know might be a bit younger for the demographics of this meeting, but it'd be great if you could take some time yourselves to fill these out and then also be able to share these with your different connections. There's honorarium as well for people that enter. They can be entered in a draw. And it's just really important for our research. But yeah, in terms of opportunities to collaborate, like what I just mentioned, I think it'd be really important that we'd be able to get the word out about the survey to more people. So we'd love if you folks could help us with that. At the end of this year as well, as part of that bigger project that Augustina was talking about, we're hoping to host a youth, nature, and well-being summit where we're hoping to bring like policymakers, educators, professionals, people in academics and research, and youth all together to discuss youth, nature, and well-being in Nova Scotia and what it looks like currently and how we can take steps moving forward. So we are looking for some youth to join that kind of committee. If that's of interest to you, definitely reach out. And then also we were hoping that somehow with you guys, we could collaborate to communicate and educate like the regional council on these different things that we're finding, because we'll be getting like lots of scientific evidence on the benefits, barriers, and facilitators of nature for youth in Nova Scotia with hopes of making those services more accessible. So yeah, that's pretty much all from us. I know we breezed through that and it was a lot of information, but essentially we're here to just promote this survey, and nature is so important to us, to loads of people in the community, and we really believe in the benefits of it for youth. So we're really hoping that somehow we can collaborate and work together to get the word out to even more youth all across the province in Nova Scotia from diverse backgrounds, who just want to give their perspectives on nature. And even if it's negative, if it's positive, we want to know what they're feeling, their current experiences, their barriers, and everything that they face. But yeah, I think that's all from us, and we'd love to take questions or answer any queries that you folks have.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. It seems really interesting. I'm so happy that you've gotten so many responses already. I think one question I had is, I think definitely like myself and other members of the committee will fill out the forms and surveys on our own, I guess like our own end. But is there anything that you think we could support you with in terms of getting it out to more people? Like we'll share it within our personal circles, of course. But I guess this could be a question for Elizabeth and Olivia. Is there any way we could, I guess, maybe repost the QR code or something on our social media for outreach purposes?
Yes, absolutely. I've posted your Instagram before, but I don't think I've posted since the survey's been released, so I can absolutely do that. If you have like an Instagrammable story page to send to me, that would be perfect. But you might have already in your email, so I'll take a look too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that sounds great. Kind of like yeah, we were hoping that initially you guys could fill it out and then send it to your personal circles, and then also like other organizations that you're connected with. I don't know if you like are part of like a certain team or a society or a group that like you think would fit youth in that range 13 to 18, whether they have a lot of experience with nature, they don't have so much experience, or like people that you might coach or mentor or like work with as well. Just really sharing around that graphic. Yeah, I believe it should be emailed out to everybody, but if not, it's also on our Instagram page. But yeah.
Something else that we had mentioned, I know the meeting's online today, but if it was in person, we have the capacity to print posters off and bring them to you. So if you have like a local community center where you live, that you'd like to put it up in or anything like that, we'd be happy to bring posters. I can bring them to the Powerhouse, or anywhere else, or we can mail them if people are like kind of a little bit further out. And yeah, that's like another option.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. And my last follow-up on that was, I know on the last slide you mentioned you wanted to kind of bring the results to regional council and have a discussion with them in terms of what your findings were after the survey. So do you think that that would benefit from like a follow-up with the youth advisory committee once the survey period is over? And then maybe we can pass a motion to discuss or kind of share our findings with regional council. Is that something that could,
Yeah.
I guess, fit that need?
Yeah, I think that would work great with us. We weren't too sure
Okay.
how like the structure worked, but
Yeah.
it's an option that's
Yeah, I was
definitely.
gonna ask Elizabeth, was that something like a motion we could pass after we have our follow-up meeting, or is that something we could have like an outcome for at the end of this meeting?
So my recommendation would be to share it with regional council as correspondence from the Youth Advisory Committee.
Okay.
The only reason I suggest that is because normally for a recommendation, I would have to go to Executive Standing Committee for Regional Council, and typically kind of the parameters of a motion that this committee can pass would be for a staff report, but there's definitely other ways to communicate with Regional Council, including correspondence. So I think that would probably make the most sense in terms of sharing the information and the
Okay.
results with Regional Council.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That answers
Okay,
your
thank you.
question.
Yeah, thank you. All right, yeah, and now I'll go through the speakers list to see if anyone else has any questions, or if anyone does, you can just raise your hand or unmute yourself. But if not, I'll go through the speakers list. All right, we're doing the speakers list. Abraham, is there anything that you wanted to ask or kind of add? Okay, and Crystal?
No, I don't have any questions at this time, but thank you so much for this great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Simone's not here. Hanya?
Nope, I also don't have any questions at the moment, but that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Hibba?
Hi, I just wanted to ask what the point of this organization is, because I find it cool with the survey and all. Like, I just scanned the QR code and I started filling it out, and I found it pretty cool. But I wanted to know, like, because it says that my data is going to be used for like presentations and stuff. So I wanted to know what the core initiative of the organization is.
For sure. Did you want me to answer?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
answer it.
I'll do my best and then add on. Yeah, so this research project kind of came out of like past research that's come up. It's kind of built on the idea that nature and access to nature, there's lots of research that shows that it's beneficial for mental well-being, so mental health, physical well-being, social well-being, and emotional well-being. And so we recognize there's a lot of research that says that that's really, good for youth and young people. However, there's not really as much research that's tackling the ideas around like access and barriers to getting outside. So there's people saying like, oh yeah, it's good to get outside. And then no one's really being like, okay, wait, but like, what if I have barriers to get out there? Now I feel like no one's addressing that. So that's one of the core things that we're trying to address with this project, and hopefully all those organizations that we identified in the environmental scan, we can go back to them and say like, hey, we saw online that you serve, you deliver outdoor services to youth to try and promote mental health and try and promote mental well-being, but have you considered some of these barriers that we're hearing from youth and young people about trying to get outside? Just like things that have come up, and I'm sure all of us have experienced them living in Nova Scotia, but things like transportation, things like the weather, youth and young people already handle a lot of other external pressures and a lot of people are in school or working and trying to balance all those other responsibilities. So trying to kind of connect youth ideas with, organizations and stuff. And then another part of it is just around, making sure that this research is happening in Nova Scotia, given like the local context. So a lot of this research that's talking about benefits to nature and stuff is happening outside of Nova Scotia, which is totally awesome. But we also just wanted to fill that gap and make sure that someone was talking about it here. And so that's kind of, I'd say, like our main point in terms of research, like the gaps that we're trying to fill is there's not a lot of research also with youth, if that makes sense. So a lot of our work, like I said, we had youth kind of help us with the development of this survey. And then we also had youth helping us with the photo voice projects. And so part of it too was kind of doing research with youth as opposed to only just doing research like on youth, because that's traditionally how a lot of it's been as well. I don't know if that answers the question or if you had anything to add, Maddie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's like we kind of like need to collect this like scientific data and research so we can provide it to like policymakers or professionals in recreation and organizations so they have like feedback on how to like best move forward with their programs and stuff. So like we're trying to conduct research on youth so that the solutions will actually end up benefiting them at like that higher level.
That's cool. Yeah, I really like that you said about like how researchers, they do research on it, but they aren't specific to youth and their needs when it comes to it. And I do really like how you're doing it specifically in Nova Scotia. So yeah, I'm definitely going to share this with my close friends and a couple of my club members. So yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
We appreciate
Give
it.
us a follow on Instagram if you want to.
And if
Yes, we'll follow on
we have some
Instagram for
stickers
sure.
too. Oh, it's blurry. We have stickers.
Oh, okay. I'll
Yeah.
definitely share
We
that
were gonna
one.
hand them out if it was in
Yeah.
person.
Oh, I'd love to have one.
Yeah, of course.
Just before we move on, Crystal, I saw your hand up before. Did you have a comment or question?
Oh, no, I did have a question. However, she answered it in the last part of
Okay,
their
perfect.
conversation. Yeah.
All right. And then next we have on the list, we have Bianca and Gabriel. Did either of you have something to add?
I had nothing to add, but I just want to commend you guys for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Everything's good on my side. I was just reminded of also another similar Dalhousie study. They're also inviting us in my school, like a research council, and I think it also has something to do with mental health, but I'm not exactly familiar with the exact details, but this is really amazing work. What inspired you guys to do this? Do you guys have like any like organizations you're trying to like become like?
That's a great question.
Maybe it's like kind of we both have a background in recreation and outdoors and grew up going to like summer camps. And
Oh, right.
and yeah, just like experiencing those benefits of nature firsthand has been so important for us in the way that we've grown up and how we've like come into the young people that we are today. So just kind of figuring out how we can keep that flow of nature benefiting youth moving forward was kind of what inspired our wanting to join this project. Our supervisor, an older or not older, but a professor as well, started it off, and he's also very passionate about nature, and we all just really believe in the benefits of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking the time to present, even if it's like 5 p.m. And do you guys still have classes to do after this?
No, we don't have classes, which is awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess we didn't mention, but I'll also add, we're part of like we represent 2 people on like a bigger team as well. So kind of like, that's a really good question about like what inspired us. And it's like partially that's what inspired us to join the project, but there's lots of other really cool people who are involved. A couple professors, a couple grad students, we had some undergrad students helping out. And then obviously our community partners, have been awesome. So it's like a big team of people working on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys get grants or something? Do you guys apply for grants, or is this all funded from the school?
No, this is funded by the Research Nova Scotia New Health Investigator Grant.
Right. Oh, okay.
Research Nova Scotia is the primary funding source, and then MyTax Accelerate internships have also supported us in working with community organizations. So in working with Love Nova Scotia and working with HRMU.
There's a lot of Nova Scotia in my school too, so I
Nice.
didn't know they were related. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And speaking of classes, this is perfect timing because I have to head to class. So, Sarah, you were last on the list. So if you had any comments or questions, you can definitely share those. And then this would be a good chance to pass over the mic to you. And then you can continue off from agenda item number 8 and then go on with the discussion. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the both of you for presenting. It was really great, and I'll definitely fill out that survey. And it was nice seeing everyone again. And hopefully we'll see each other in person next year. Wow. Happy New Year in
Bye,
advance.
Zoya.
Have a nice
Bye.
Thank you. Oh, wait, no, she's
Bye, Zoe. Take care.
she's not leaving yet. I think someone else is taking over.
Yes, that's me actually. Actually, I was the last just on the speakers list, but once again, to echo everyone else, what everyone else said, thank you again for the presentation. In terms of sort of the work you've done already, is there any sort of gaps in terms of like policies or legislation that you've currently identified, either on a municipal or like provincial level?
Gaps in policies and legislation. We probably haven't gone that high up yet, I will say. We've definitely been looking more at like the services and like service provision level, so more working at like an organizational level. But hopefully with the results of the survey, we might be able to identify some. We haven't actually like pulled the survey data yet because it's still open. But maybe after that we'll start to find some gaps up there. Yeah.
For sure. Sounds good. I know it's still early stages, but I thought I'd ask anyways. But
Good
I
question.
think that was it from me. Is there any last words any of the committee members wanted to sort of broach? If not, then we'll give the both of you the rest of your afternoon back. Once again, thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All right, have a good weekend.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Perfect. So we'll sort of now move on into our next item 9.1.1, and that is regarding the proposed 2026 meeting schedule. I know it was shared sort of in the original like invite, but I can sort of bring it up as well here. But essentially the meeting schedule as stands would sort of be in line with what it's been in previous years, where we would have meetings once again on the third Thursday of the month. With no meetings currently scheduled for July, August, and December as well. So once again, if there are any questions, or any concerns regarding the meeting schedule, now would be the time. Perfect. So in that case, I'll go forward with the motion, and that would be that the Youth Advisory Committee approve the proposed 2026 Youth Advisory Committee meeting schedule as outlined in the staff memorandum, and this will require both a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Perfect. Thank you, Crystal.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you, Hanya. And then I'll call now for the question. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands. And all those who oppose, raise your hand or say nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Perfect. So now we'll move on to item 9.1.2, and that is regarding an update on the youth services plan for Parks and Recreation. And I'll now invite Olivia to give a presentation regarding that.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yeah? Okay, perfect. I don't have much to add this week. Since we haven't seen each other in a while, I wanted to give a little update on where we're at. So as you know, we did a recruitment for the youth team, and I know some people here applied. So thanks for those folks who applied to join the youth services plan team. We had over 80 applicants from across HRM and narrowed it down to 20 folks. The base of who was chosen was really just trying to get representation of every age group, every location in the city. And then based on why people were interested in joining it. So acceptances were sent out to 20 folks. As far as I know, all 20 accepted, and we have our first meeting next week. So that's really exciting to have that start. And also just to know that there are so many youth like you folks or like us that are so interested in being a part of making these decisions is just like a really good boost to see. So our first meeting is just going to be about building a community and building that trust in the space. And then hopefully from there, they'll help guide the youth services plan. Other than that, there's been a lot of meetings that I've held with local organizations that work with youth. And I'm trying to build a well-rounded landscape on what's going on with youth organizations, where the gaps are, where the barriers are, what successes folks are having. And it's really interesting to start building that network with other youth organizations. So that's the only update so far. We're still on track for it to be published next September. So throughout the next couple months, there'll probably be an update in every meeting, but it's probably going to be short and sweet like this. But if anyone has any questions about the youth services plan at this point, or if you saw the posters for the team recruitment or heard anything from anyone that you wanted clarification on, now's the chance. But also email me anytime. Anything? Nope, easy peasy. As always, if you have any questions about the youth services plan, or if you still wanted to be a part of it and you might have missed that application period, feel free to reach out to me and let me know, because there might be a capacity that you folks as the advisory committee could help that might not be just not a team member, but something else. I don't know. So if you're still interested, feel free to let me know. But that's all I've got, Cyril, so I'll pass it back to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Olivia, for the update. And, I'm looking forward to see sort of what, see all the work that's going to happen on that in the next few months. But yeah, so if there are no other nothing further on that matter, then I'll move on to the next one, which will be the item that we had added, 9.1.3, which would be a discussion regarding the municipal budget. So just for some context, not the necessary deliberations, but the budget committee's been having the sort of first couple meetings regarding the budget for 2026-27. And essentially the spark notes of it will be that there's currently essentially it looks like there'll either have to be increases in property taxes or sort of a reduction in services, or a combination of the both. And feel free, if anyone has more knowledge on this, feel free to correct me, but this sort of was my understanding of the sort of meeting minutes that I was reading. But essentially it looks like currently the projected, I don't know if I'll necessarily call it a deficit, but the amount that needs to be made up is about $90 million. Before we proceed any further, would it be, I'm not sure if I've actually never done this, but would it be worthwhile going into an in-camera session for this sort of discussion? Or I'm not sure if this committee has that capacity actually, but.
So good question. Normally, we would not go into an in-camera session with an advisory committee unless if it was kind of something determined beforehand.
Gotcha.
But certainly the committee can discuss anything that, like the budget committee, anything in public is a public meeting. It certainly is open to discussion. So, yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah,
but
I'm
if you
good to
need any more
proceed. I'm good.
clarification, let me know.
Yeah, I'm good to proceed as is. I just know sometimes finance conversations sometimes go in this, but that makes sense that since it's all public information, that to sort of proceed as is. So essentially the current budget as is, essentially they had made some sort of early, I wouldn't say recommendations, but sort of essentially ways to try and sort of mitigate the deficit. And some of that was, I'm just gonna see if I took a bunch of screenshots of the actual stuff, but essentially the current proposal was that essentially property taxes would have to increase by about 10.5%. And I know that it sounded like city council, they wanted to try and mitigate that by looking into hiring freezes. I know that one of the proposals was to look into reducing the climate action tax by 1/3 of what it currently is, and as well as essentially cutting some grants as well by 10%. By the sounds of it, and other actions as well. So essentially the budget as is, they're not going to really, it doesn't sound like they're going to have any really increases. Like a lot of the increases seem like they're coming from either previously agreed upon contract, like sort of union agreement contract increases, and sort of just generic sort of like inflationary increases. So essentially the budget is similar in the sense of last year in terms of the services offered. So that's sort of a brief spark note summary. I know I'd sort of sent some information as well, some more documents to the rest of the committee sort of in the past week as well concerning this. But I really just wanted to open the floor for this discussion for the whole committee, as I think that, it's very important time for the municipality, especially when it comes to sort of discussing the budget. And I think that it's a good opportunity as well for the Youth Advisory Committee to weigh in on some of the either the items on those lists, and also with consideration, particularly with the climate action tax reduction. I mean, we've spoken to Halifax, a number of times over the past few years, and just sort of considering whether, what impact that would have on our current sort of climate action plan. So I'll open the floor to discussion, but then feel free to ask any questions as well. I have read up a bit on it. I won't pretend I'm the expert, but I'm happy to discuss on it. Happy to discuss it further.
So if we are to like discuss about it, what like exact role like can we play? Like, is there any role that we as a committee can do in any way, or is it even possible?
The thing that I was thinking of, and correct me, Elizabeth, if I'm wrong, but was just like we could always send correspondence to City Council. So let's say we feel very strongly about one of the items, we could, I imagine we could probably send correspondence to City Council and say, we as the Youth Advisory Committee believe that action on or cutting this or increasing fees to this would have XYZ impact on youth. And that's something that, if there are stuff like, let's say, the Climate Action Fund, or the climate action tax, if that gets cut by a third, I wonder, could we invite Halifax to come in again and say, what would be the impact on sort of your current projects if this fund were to be cut by 1/3? And then, sort of with that information, we could sort of send a correspondence essentially to either the executive committee or City Council. Would I be correct in that, Elizabeth? Yes.
Yeah, so you are correct. So there's kind of two main options to communicate with Budget Committee. One is, like you said, submitting correspondence, and this could be done. So for the advisory committee, either like you could pass a motion to write a letter to Budget Committee from the Youth Advisory Committee itself. So that would be signed by the chair and would essentially come from the chair on behalf of all of on behalf of all Youth Advisory Committee. Or you also have the option, like you as individuals, not necessarily representing the Youth Advisory Committee, could also submit your correspondence on your own. And the only reason I say that is because the chair is technically the only person that can speak on behalf of the Youth Advisory Committee, but you're certainly, if there's any correspondence you would like to send on your own behalf, you certainly could do that. The second option is participating in public participation at budget. So I can actually, after this meeting, send around the video of yesterday's budget meeting. They have a continuation meeting tomorrow, just for anyone that kind of wants to briefly review everything that happened and what was discussed. But I can also send the schedule for when each business unit will be presenting at budget, or like what day they will be discussing the budget for different departments. So say you wanted to speak to anything Halifax related, you'd come and speak up for public participation on the day that that business unit is kind of before budget. So yeah, you can either participate in person, and with public participation, you can actually also register to participate over Zoom. So in summary, you can participate through correspondence or participating in public participation, either in person or via Zoom.
Thank you for that context. That helps a lot. So I guess maybe I'll go sort of maybe piecemeal, just if any other comments before we continue. But what I'll do is I can also I'll add some prompts as well afterwards, because I know it's a huge topic, and I know budgets are obviously especially for a municipality are quite complex. But any other comments before I'll add sort of just some stuff that I was thinking of.
Think
so
like,
I'll sorry. Go ahead.
sorry. I
Sorry.
was gonna say like maybe like when you tell us your ideas and what you're thinking, then we'll have like a better sense on like what to like our approach and our like saying our own perspective on things.
For sure. Yeah. So the first one that came to mind was the climate action tax. So essentially that's as it's currently, essentially it's a tax that was created from sort of the Climate Action Plan Halifax, and essentially a portion of property taxes goes towards sort of any climate initiatives. So that could include like the e-buses, as well as sort of like any other like sort of like municipal like green projects. And currently the rate that I had seen online at the municipal website was essentially it was the math that I did it up to is that it essentially seemed like it was about 2 to 2.5% of the overall property tax bill. And that was sort of just from some of the just from the rates that they had included on their website. So it's about 2.5% of the overall property tax bill. And essentially would the proposal was to cut that, it was sort of look into cutting that by a third. So for context, like it seems like the average, not the average property tax bill for a home, for like a detached home in Halifax is about three and a half thousand. And if I'll just do the math, so about for a $3,500 home, about $70 of that is towards the climate action tax. So I don't want to say it's a small number relative to the full number of it, but at least from the numbers that I was looking at, like I wouldn't say the climate action tax is a huge portion of the property tax bill. Obviously, if there is an increase that is proposed, obviously, that would perhaps put a dent into the total increase, especially where the proposed increase is quite large this year, about 10%. So for the average homeowner, that could be an increase of about $350 to their property tax bill. But I think just as a committee, I think just something that comes to mind for me is, what would be the impact on our current climate action plans as a municipality if we were to cut that by a third? And also, does that create a meaningful impact to sort of everyday people in terms of improving? Obviously we have a cost of living crisis, not only in Halifax, across the province, across the country, and worldwide. I just wonder if if cutting the climate action tax is what's going to make a meaningful difference in that.
I would say like I agree with you on that note because like things like the Climate Act and stuff, like we should be looking at like investing in them. But when we start to reduce that, then with all the climate issues going on, the global warming, we have to, as a province, like show that we are trying to help the situation. Because now, if we cut back on it, then how do people also see the government? They see the government as like they're lying to us about the sustainability and all that stuff. But like I'm not happy that that was reduced, but I'm glad like we're talking about this. So if you're able to go, as she mentioned, like the day maybe they're doing their budget, or we can do a correspondence, like some way to show that there is meaning to this, that the cutting back was not the right move.
And just to your point, Abraham, none of these changes have actually already been made. These are all sort of proposals that were discussed in the budgetary committee meetings. So once again, I think this is a good time where, these are changes that, as I said, are currently just being proposed. Like these are not sort of passed. These are not like fully in the budget right now. So sort of if this is something the committee feels strongly about, then I think definitely that's, I know Elizabeth had mentioned a couple ways to sort of to share our input on that. And I think that's something that as a committee we are able to do. Any comments or sort of any insight from the rest of the group just regarding this?
Nope, no comment from me.
Would this be would the group be interested in Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. And would this be something that the committee would be? And I mean, one thing we could do is, I'm not sure if we're able maybe to reach out to Halifax. I know this is quite new and see, like I don't know if they would have that necessarily that information yet, but in terms of, if there were a cut by 1/3, like would they have any ideas in terms of what the impact would be on the services or the programs that they're able to offer? And then that way I'm just thinking that could be something we include in any correspondence, not necessarily speaking on their behalf, but just so that we have sort of that information. Yes, Elizabeth.
Just want to clarify, when you say getting more information from Halifax or the staff
Mhm.
associated with that, do you mean them coming to present at a committee meeting, or just kind of like we, either Olivia or myself, reaching out to them to get more information on what the impacts would be and then sharing that info with the committee?
I think just the issue that I see just with having them come to a meeting is just, I think our next currently scheduled meeting is in January, and I'm just want to be cognizant of whether
Yeah.
that would line up
Yeah,
with
that's fair.
the budget deliberations. Like I'm wondering, I think maybe just an email or something like that, and then have that information relayed might be the most efficient way. The other option is we could have just set up a I don't remember the exact term for it, not an emergency meeting, but we could like, set up, I think we have the powers to set up like scheduled meetings
Special
outside of
meeting,
the current
yeah.
calendar, a special meeting, thank you. So that's another option as well. And once again, like as you said, there's further meetings scheduled for tomorrow as well. So I mean, there will be new information, new proposals, I'm sure that will come out of that and in future meetings as well. So I think it's just something maybe we can keep in our back pocket as well. And if there is, once we get more information in terms of, if there are any other cuts coming as well, just one of the things I think of is, for example, the youth advocate program, stuff, programs like SNAP that, we heard from back in June, seeing like, are those programs that will be affected by any austerity measures? And, I mean, once again, these are all programs that we've heard from in the past few years. We've seen the impact that they can have on youth in our community. And I think it's, if I think we're in a general climate of austerity, nationwide, not only in Halifax. And, I think it's trying to, advocate for the programs that we believe in and that we believe are having a profound impact. And otherwise, it's, there's, I don't know how many hundreds of items on the budgets and, hundreds of different programs that the municipality is undertaking. So I think that, as a committee, it can be very valuable sort of advocating for certain projects. And I think we saw that in last year's budget where there were projected cuts towards certain programs, and people from those programs advocated for them, and they were able to actually continue receiving the funding they had received in previous years. So like, I think particularly on a municipal level, I mean, there's certainly, that is change that we can make and change that we can sort of advocate for. Any other insight? Sorry, Crystal, you had unmuted your microphone.
No, I was just gonna commend you because you've definitely looked into it, and I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense in that advocacy piece and having people to speak out. Because I guess my question was just going to be like, what would us like listening and hearing that information and have that do? But the way you've explained it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, no, definitely understand.
Yeah, I really want to like have this be an action. So I guess the purpose is just to create a bit of an action plan, just because I know I just want to make sure we have some actionable items for stuff like this. I think one of them I think is reaching out perhaps to Halifax and seeing like what would be the impact on them. And then once we sort of get that information, I know Elizabeth said you had said that you had sent out also some information about like the schedule of when certain business units would be presenting at the budget committee meetings. And if there, I know these usually happen during the day. So, not everyone might necessarily be available, but if there are people who are available or, I'll see as well with my schedule if that's something I can attend, either virtually or in person. But so I guess, do we have to pass any motions for any of this, Elizabeth, in terms of like, let's say like sending correspondence to Halifax?
So sending sending correspondence, as staff would reach out kind of on behalf of the committee. So I would say a motion isn't necessary right now. However, perhaps either if you had a special meeting or at the January meeting, you could pass a motion that the chair write a letter on behalf to budget committee regarding Halifax or any other programs that are of interest. And another thing too, kind of on topic, but a little off topic, so the Women Gender Equity Advisory Committee, they actually received kind of a general overview of the municipal budget presentation at their November meeting, maybe it was October meeting. I could circulate those slides as well. Just, I find it kind of gives a good overview of just how the municipal budget works, just kind of for members' own reference. But yes, the next step can be staff reaching out to staff with Halifax and getting a bit more information on that.
Yeah, if you could send that out, I think that would be great. I know I had sent some documents in our group chat, but it was like 400-page budget documents, which I sort of give a preamble. I was like, I don't expect anyone to read this, but just in case anyone wants to like look through specific sections. But yes, Hania.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. I just had a little side comment to make. I feel like we've talked about this before, but it wouldn't hurt highlighting again. But I wanted to like advocate for the transit services. It's in the investing in affordability section. And I think it's like one of the most like important tools for youth, and especially like for me, like personally, it's helped me a lot, like getting to school, work, sports, volunteer commitments. And yeah, I think it really like directly impacts like daily lives for us youth. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to advocate for.
And was that with regards to I know the sort of some of the affordability stuff was like it's like subsidization almost for passes for youth. I know there's some current programs with that, or is it more regarding like continued improvement of transit? Like I know there's the bus rapid transit system, BERT, if anyone's familiar with that. Was that sort of more what you were talking about, Hanya? Or was it more
Yes.
of the subs? Okay. Yeah, definitely BERT. I know BERT's been in the works for I don't know how many years. I know part of the difficulty is securing as well provincial funding, and I'm not sure if there's federal funding yet for that or not. But essentially, for anyone who's interested who hasn't heard about it, BERT is basically would be like a bus rapid transit system. It's something that's used in other sort of similar sized cities across Canada and a lot actually in South America as well. Basically, it's almost like a metro line. If you look at it, it looks like a metro line, but essentially it's fewer stops, increased frequency, so it would run every 10 minutes. And it's essentially, I think, four maybe lines, different bus lines that essentially just also facilitate connections between the various lines. And part of the the bigger cost surrounding the project as well, that is that 80% of the bus lane, 80% of the bus routes would be transit lanes or bus only lanes. So sort of increasing on time nature and also just speed of that service. So BERT is a project that, once again, like the project is already basically written out. The province did their own transportation assessment and essentially found that like BERT was, because I know the province wanted to do their own sort of assessment of transit, not only in the municipality but province wide. And I know that BERT was basically something they said would be beneficial. Once again, this is, I think that's a great point, and I wonder if, this is something we can advocate even the provincial government for, and saying, well, actually, I don't want to go too far. Let's stay on hand with the municipal budget. But just, I think there wasn't necessarily, I think, any new funding associated with transit. I think it was a continuation, from my understanding, of projects that have been approved in the past years. I think there might have been one to do with maybe Portland Street, with like transit regarding on Portland Street. But no, that's a great point. And I think that as a committee as well, like transit is a huge municipal concern. And I think there is certainly room to improve the municipal transit system. Elizabeth, I vaguely remember reading an article a few months ago that there was actually a new director of Halifax Transit. Um, I know that I don't think we've actually received any presentations from Halifax Transit. I wonder if also that could be something we maybe consider as well for the next meeting, is seeing if he could come in. And I'm honestly, I'm a huge BERT advocate. I think it's a great project, and I think just the big issue with it is just we haven't had the funding for it, or the support from it from a provincial level, which is a bit unfortunate. But I know that
Yeah,
was a very long-winded monologue, but
we can definitely look into having someone from Halifax Transit come in. I don't know so the new executive director is Robin Garris. I don't know if it would necessarily be him, but we can definitely reach out to Halifax Transit and see whoever they think the most appropriate staff person would be to come in and present to the committee specifically on BRT.
and Olivia, I think, has her hand up as well.
Yes, I was also chatting with, I don't have their name off the top of my head. I was trying to quickly search for it. But I know that I think it was one of the regional committees, I don't remember which one, asked for a staff report from transportation on youth active transportation. So I spoke with the staff member that's working on that report. And it's not complete yet, but it's kind of similar to the things we're talking about specifically with youth transportation and active transportation, and inviting them to present to us or correspondence or something when that report is ready will also be important. So I'll keep an eye out for that. It's probably going to be a while, but the questions that we're asking are also questions that transit is working towards. So that might be a good person to see. And I do think they have a youth engagement coordinator with transit, so that might be a person that we can reach out to specifically rather than the director that might have some valuable information for us. But I can look into that one to see who the best person for that would.
That's great. Thank you so much, Olivia. And then you brought up a great point as well. I think that sometimes when we talk about transit, like I get very hyper focused on the buses, but active transportation is a huge aspect of that as well. I know that there was a report that came out from Bird, like the rental bikes and scooters downtown. And I can't remember the numbers, but I think it was like they had a huge amount of usage the past few months. So I think just showing that these are services that are being used. I know, like myself, I use those services as well. I'm not sure if anyone else in the committee uses them as well, and once again, that uses current bike infrastructure, primarily bike lanes, and that's once again, I know some of the budgeting for that has been approved in prior years, but just seeing, if there are any other like capital projects like that are going to be looked at in the budget in terms of, once again, the budget deliberations are very early. And I think I just brought up a couple points that have been brought up so far, but I think that in the next coming weeks, like we might see other changes or other sort of, or any other changes like that coming to current programming. So yes, thank you for bringing up transit, Hanya. I think that's a great point as well. Any other comments or questions or anything like that? If not, I'll just summarize just to make sure that we're all on the same page, because I know we sort of talked about a lot. Perfect. So I think just the first one that we had talked about was the climate action tax. I think just we had said we'll correspond with Halifax themselves and see if they have any and just sort of see what their insight is in terms of what the impacts would be of any cuts to that. And I think then once we have that, looking into further correspondence with the budget committee, which would be either in the form of a letter that the chair would provide, as well as I know Elizabeth had said that she could share also the sort of the schedule for public participation and stuff like that as well. Do we have to get our names on in advance for the public participation, or is it more that you just show up and they add you to the list?
So there's two options. You can either, I guess, volunteer from the floor, or you can register beforehand. To speak in person, you don't have to register beforehand, but to register or to speak over Zoom, you do have to register the day before normally. So yeah. And then so another thing I wanted to mention regarding public participation, I know they are going to have a day or an evening during this budget that is open for public participation, kind of to allow, just like you had kind of mentioned earlier, budget always happens during the day. So they will have an evening session for public participation. I don't remember when that is off the top of my head, but I can also find out what that is and let the committee know.
That'd be great. Thank you. And then the second item that we had talked about was public transportation. Once again, I think we had sort of discussed as well, seeing if any of their youth coordinators as well could come by. Oh, and I think the other thing, Elizabeth, was I can't remember if it was you, Elizabeth, or Olivia, who had mentioned that one of the other committees had received sort of like a slide deck regarding the budget. I think even something like if that could be shared with the committee, I think that'd be great as well.
Totally.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like active transportation and sort of Halifax Transit, we had mentioned some possible meetings or having them come over at our next meeting. And I think just other than that, just keeping an eye on the budget deliberations. Like I know that there might be some stuff that comes up in the next few weeks. And if there are like significant changes to, let's say, like youth programming or anything like that that come up in the budget, would people be interested in scheduling like a special meeting at some point in the next few weeks? And that's something, once again, we can reassess once we sort of get a bit more information. I know it's exam season for our colleagues in universities, so I want to be mindful of that as well. But if anyone has any also strong feelings against it, feel free to speak up as well. In that case, we can also just discuss it after the meeting in our sort of internal correspondence as well, and reassess that. So that's great. I think that was it from my end. I think that sort of let me know if I missed anything, but I think that at least that gives us some sort of like action items and like some plans in terms of what we can do over the next couple months as sort of budget deliberations continue. Perfect. I think that's it. It's for in terms of the meeting. So I guess I'll move on to the date of the next meeting, as we sort of approved earlier, is I believe January 22nd is our currently next scheduled meeting. And yes, that's correct, as we just approved today. So essentially, I will open the floor one last time, just if there's any comments or anything else anyone wants to say regarding either any of the other presentations we received today or anything else we discussed. And if not, then we'll adjourn after that. But I'll open the floor up first. Yes, Olivia.
I just have a reminder to those folks that have signed up for the volunteer conference that it is tomorrow. If you forgot, I'll be there. So if you need anything, just feel free to shoot me an email. I know we're not meeting until January, and I don't think I'm allowed to propose this because I'm the staff person. But I know that
I think we lost your audio, or at least I did.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything either.
My AirPods died. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you, yeah.
Okay, they died and it just was reconnecting. I don't know where you lost me, but I was wondering if maybe someone who has the power to do this can propose that, since the folks that are attending the volunteer conference are attending different sessions, that maybe at our next meeting they could do a little presentation about all the things that they learned at the conference. I know some people attending the conference aren't here, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think that would be really fun to share with everyone else what the experience is like and what we learned. And I thought maybe since our next meeting isn't until January, it might be nice to put that on the plan right now, so you have lots of time to plan it. But I don't think I'm allowed to be the one to decide that. So, Cyril.
Do you want me to put a meeting for that, or a motion for that?
If that,
to have that added to the agenda?
Way to do that, or
you don't need a motion.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's kind of as long as the committee is.
That's
fine
something that
with
people
it,
are
or-
interested in.
Yeah.
Is hearing about the conference.
I would be fine with presenting what I learned because the workshops I got, I'm pretty interested in them myself. So
Okay, perfect. Then maybe I'll coordinate with the folks who attend the conference afterwards to put together something, and we'll add it to the agenda for the next meeting, that there will be a little presentation. Easy peasy. I'll see you folks who are going tomorrow there.
Great, thank you for bringing that up, Olivia. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it tomorrow, but I'm happy to see at least that we have some representation from the committee nonetheless. So great. Any other comments or any feedback at all? Great. So in that case, then I'll actually put forward a motion to adjourn the meeting, and this will only require a mover.
I'll move.
Wonderful. Thank you, Abraham. So the meeting is now adjourned as of 6:11 p.m. So, thank you again, everyone, for your time today. We'll give you back the rest of your afternoon, and feel free to reach out to me or sort of Zoya independently as well if there's any concerns or any comments as well from today's meeting as well. So great job, everyone.